Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Mademoiselle Lina, and you can find me online at www.conjureknits.com. Today, we are here to do the weekly forecast for December 27th through January the 2nd, and we are going to be using the Spirit Keepers Tarot, Revelation Edition by Annabelle Wen. Before we get started, I would like to say thank you for viewing my video, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and click on the little bell so that you'll receive notifications of when I go live or upload new videos. I do try to stay pretty busy here on my channel. I do all 12 zodiac signs for the monthly tarot scopes. On Sundays, we have Conjure Crew with myself, Mambo Tanya, and the Black Bonnet Witch. On Mondays, I upload the weekly forecast. Every day, I do a card of the day reveal. On Wednesdays, we have the virtual book club. We are currently reading the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. It has been so much fun following Richard and Kaylin on their adventures, so you are definitely going to want to join us for that. I also pop on from time to time and do free readings, so make sure you get my notifications by clicking that little bell. Alright, I feel that I have rambled on long enough. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Card number 1. What spirit will be most present this week? And we have Nine of Scepters, the Pugilist. The pugilist is the world-weary spirit, bandaged on bended knee, praying at the crossroads for great strength. A black dog howls to signify that she of the earth and underworld has arrived. Present before you is the Great One of Magic. In the background, under the necromancer's crescent moon, is the city of Uruk in Sumer during the Uruk period, 4000–3100 BC. Sumer was one of the first civilizations nestled in the Fertile Crescent. Sumerians called their kingdom Kangur, or country of the noble lords, and referred to themselves as the black-headed ones. The epithet, she of the earth and underworld, or Chthonia, is a reference to Hecate, though it can also be a reference to the Sumerian goddess Ereshkigal, ruler of the underworld and lady of the great earth. Throughout the Greek magical papyri, a collection of spells and charms written on papyri dated to sometime between 100 BC and 400 AD, Hecate is referred to as Hecate Ereshkigal. Dogs, serpents, wreaths, keys, the herald's wand, and golden sandals are associated with the goddess. The Great One of Magic can also refer to Werthikau, an Egyptian divinity who is the personification of magic, sorcery, and also a protectress in the underworld. Heko means magic in archaic Egyptian. Furthermore, according to the Greek magical papyri, Hecate is known by many names, and in one incantation, she is invoked as follows: O Hecate of many names, O triple-headed goddess who walks on fire, cow-eyed Bowerforb, Panforba Forbar Actiafi, Ereshkigal, Nebotas Walleth. Magi identified the triple-headed goddess Hecate by the three names, Ereshkigal, Actiaphis, and Nebutajueleth. One prevailing theory among scholars is that Ereshkigal was imported into the Greek pantheon as Hecate sometime during the Seleucid Empire, 312 BC, 63 BC, by way of Egyptian magi. Egyptian high priests syncretized the underworld goddess into their magical traditions, then wrote about her in Greek. Interesting tangent, Professor Gideon Bohack from Tel Aviv University has also written on the cross-cultural influences of Hecate Ereshkigal, analyzing a Jewish magical amulet from the 6th century found in Niram, a kibbutz located in northwestern Negev in Israel. The amulet featured the letters Arskile, a Hebraized form of the angel name Ereshkiel, originating from Ereshkigal, demonstrating a syncretizing of Jewish and Greek magical traditions, with a shared invocation of Ereshkigal with the formula Hayasimigadon. Returning to the card imagery, here Hecate's dress features a tufted pattern of overlapping petals called a conakes, a common dress style in ancient Mesopotamia. Key 9. The Erudite and Key 18. The necromancer reveal the Eleusinian mysteries, and as the numerological rulers over the nines, the Nine of Scepters continues those revelations. The myth that inspired the initiatory rites of the Eleusinian mysteries was the maiden, mother, and crumb story of the maiden Persephone, who was abducted by Hades. Her mother Demeter, the Olympian goddess of grains, fertility, and harvest, and Hecate, Titan goddess of magic, witchcraft, necromancy, and liminal spaces. In the mysteries, Persephone, Demeter, and Hecate represented the triune archetype, the triple goddess. The spirit of this key is embodied by the story of an innocent one's unwilling, involuntary descent into an underworld and the great strength and love that it will take to restore that innocent one. Here in the Nine of the Scepters, the man on bended knee is the pugilist and Hecate is the aspect of great strength and love manifested as the crone. The crone aspect is to represent Hecate's relation to Demeter and Persephone. Card number 2. What is in my highest interest to make this week's priority? And we have Five of Swords, the Hector. The sacred bull from Key 5, the Hierophant, a numerological ruler of the fives, manifests in the earthly realm as the Hector. Here is one who possesses great capabilities and exploits it for personal gain. His left boot features a triquetera, and a triskelion is tattooed on his right hand. The runes Uras, for physical strength, agility, speed, and stamina. Furisas, for resistance, destroying your opponent. Catharsis, Hagelas, for wrath and the destructive force, and Manas, for the self, are stitched onto his leather sling. 5 drops of blood on the swords represent the 5 sacred wounds. The raven is a messenger from the spirit realm, a warning of what is to come. Beyond the clouds is a reference to the Trojan War, which was first set into motion when the goddess Eris threw the golden apple of discord at Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, and the 3 goddesses fought to retrieve the apple, to prove which among them was the fairest goddess of them all. Since they could not settle the dispute, Zeus appointed Paris of Troy to adjudicate. Paris ruled that Aphrodite was the most beautiful, and therefore the apple of discord was granted to her. As a reward, Aphrodite promised that Paris could have as his wife the most beautiful woman, Helen, who was already married to a Spartan. Aphrodite caused Helen to fall in love with Paris, and she ran off to Troy with Paris. This launched a war between Sparta, the Greeks, their allies, and Troy. Hector, brother to Paris, was known as the greatest warrior of Troy, though he objected to the war with Greece. Yet out of loyalty to Troy, Hector agreed to command the Trojan army. The first Greek to set foot on Trojan soil, the warrior Protesilaus, was immediately slayed by Hector. To reduce casualties on both sides, he convinced the Greeks to have one of their warriors fight him in a duel so that their soldiers would not have to die on the field. The Greeks agreed and sent Ajax the Great. Hector won. Meanwhile, for the Greeks, Achilles, like Hector with the Trojans, was reluctant to fight. Achilles became a conscientious objector and refused to go on to the battlefield. His best friend, though others speculate was also his lover, Patroclus, went in Achilles' place, wearing Achilles' armor. In battle, Hector killed Patroclus. This enraged Achilles. He vowed revenge and sought out Hector, killing every Trojan along his path. Achilles defeats Hector so brutally, and he is so aggrieved by the death of Patroclus that he ignores Hector's plea for an honorable death. Achilles ties Hector's body to the back of his chariot and drags it around the walls of Troy. In his warpath, Achilles also manages to disrespect the god Apollo. Still distraught by the death of his beloved Patroclus and bloodthirsty for revenge, Achilles returns to Troy. Paris, too, is angered over the death of his brother Hector. Apollo appears to Paris to help the prince defeat the otherwise much stronger Achilles. On the battlefield, Paris shoots a poisoned arrow, guided by Apollo, that hits Achilles' heel and kills him. Aphrodite's son Aeneas fought in the Trojan War alongside Hector, fled Troy before its fall, and built a new civilization in Italy, which became Rome. The Romans call Aphrodite Venus, who they honor as the ancestor of the Roman people. The Golden Dawn Decan rulership correspondence for the Five of Swords is Venus in Aquarius. The Roman counterpart to the Greek Aphrodite was Venus, though Romans extended the attributes of Aphrodite, love, sex, beauty, and fertility, to include victory and success in political elections. Her son Aeneas became the founder of the Roman Republic. The traditional ruling planet for Aquarius is Saturn, while the modern ruler is Uranus. In Greek mythology, Cronus, Roman equivalent, Saturn, son of Uranus, primordial Titan god of the skies, castrated his father. When the severed genitals were thrown into the sea, the spume around it gave birth to Aphrodite. The one-on-one combat between Hector and Achilles expresses my interpretation of the Five of Swords, though with a different depiction from the RWS Five of Swords. The RWS Five of Swords depicts two figures with their backs turned to the viewer, defeated by the figure in the foreground who wields three swords, with two more at his feet. Although the moment of time illustrated here shows Hector and Achilles still in combat, we know how the story ends. Neither Hector nor Achilles will survive the Trojan War. Both of their stories will end with defeat, just like the two figures in the RWS at the hands of the figure in the foreground. The archetypal spirit of the Five of Swords, here represented by the bull with the inverted ankh on his forehead. Card number 3. What do I need to be mindful of and prepare for this week? And we have Key 12, the Outlaw. The outlaw hangs from an inverted ankh, a serpent coiled around his left leg. He is suspended in between two pillars. One pillar bears the relief of a swan, though here concealed from view by the birth of a butterfly. This pillar symbolizes divine grace. At the pillar's base, do et des, I give that you may give. The second pillar features the relief of a lotus blossom, symbolizing wisdom, consciousness at the subconscious and unconscious level. At its base, coram Deo, in the presence of God. The outlaw's left eye is a crescent moon, and where his right eye would be, we see a Merkaba star emanating divine light, or astral light, in the four directions. The reversed triangle formed from his legs tells us that he dies the victim of the wicked ones. Comtesse de Saint-Germain, 1901. In the Taoist creation myth, the god Pangu created heaven and earth, then died of exhaustion. Upon his death, Pangu's right eye became the sun and his left eye became the moon. Incidentally, the Egyptian myth of Horus associates his right eye with the sun and his left eye with the moon. This archetypal narrative is inscribed into Key 12. The monarch butterfly in the top left corner has just emerged from the chrysalis, resting as its wings dry. This process of the butterfly emerging from its chrysalis is called eclosion. Soon the monarch will take its first flight. Butterflies are symbols of transformation. When you chance upon a monarch butterfly along your path, it is an omen from the divine that you are on the right course of action. During Dia de Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, millions of migrating monarch butterflies arrive, and thus the monarch has been associated with the souls of the dead. Likewise, the Greeks also associate butterflies with souls. The goddess Psyche is associated with butterfly wings. When the butterfly companion of the outlaw calls to you, it is a spirit of one who has passed on calling to you with an important message. The Blackfeet Nation, or Siksikaitsitapi people from what is now modern-day Montana in North America, believed that butterflies delivered peaceful, blissful dreams. Echoing the classical interpretation for the hanged man, the symbol of the butterfly is a message that even though progress may feel as if it has come to a standstill, enjoy the moment and enjoy the rest. The anemone depicted upon the top stones of the twin pillars are reminiscent of Adonis, Adonai of Greco-Roman lore, where the blood of the dying Adonis and Aphrodite's tears transformed into the anemone. The myth of the Messiah and resurrection of a dying god is expressed in the stone relief of the anemone blossom that connects the pillars from key 5. The Hierophant with the pillars here in key 12, the outlaw. Upon his shirt is the trident of Poseidon. This also represents the modern astrological correspondence for the tarot-hanged man, Neptune. The trident of Poseidon symbolizes the ultimate powers of water. Per its astrological indications, key 12 is also the key to prophetic dreams, psychic or intuitive knowledge, and sorcery. The outlaw is the heretic who professes faith in spirit, but whose beliefs run contrary to established traditions and to orthodoxy. This is the heretic who rejects fundamentalism, norms, and tradition, but in doing so, society suspends the outlaw heretic from a free life. Appearing across the skies is the first line from Psalm 102, KJV 103, in Latin, Benedic anima me, Domino, et omnia qui intra me sunt nemini sancto ejus. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. At L ad I run 4D ab at R I ik y and at P I S H y e a t, y at H a o av H at viac L. At QR ab y e a t, e s h m ac at d s h v. In the Key of Solomon, Psalm 102 is recited by the magus as part of a ritual consecration by bath. The first line of Psalm 102 is also used to consecrate ceremonial candles prior to ritual use. Here, the intention of writing the first line across the skies and above the waters surrounding the outlaw is to empower this card as a blessing. This is the key of grace. By combining the cards from this week's forecast, I was able to come up with the I Ching of Jai Jai. After the ending, the sage anticipates possible misfortunes and pitfalls before advancing to best protect the people. Think about the consequences that your actions may have on others. A noble leader puts the people's welfare before self-interests. You have done what you have done. The matter now is what happens next. It is the time after an ending and at the start of a new beginning. Call upon the illustrious ancestor. When it comes to receiving favor from the divine, the extravagance of your offerings do not matter. It is the sincerity of your heart and piety that matters more. All right, my lovelies. Let's take a look at the bigger picture here. Card number 1. What spirit will be most present this week? And we have 9 of Scepters, the Pugilist. The RWS 9 of Wands depicts a bandaged, world-weary man leaning on a staff. Pair that with the Thoth 9 of Wands interpretation, titling the key the Lord of Strength. This card is one of great endurance, but the reason that attribute arises is because there has been great suffering and plague. A pugilist is one who fights, specifically one who fights with fists. Its etymological root is in Latin pugil for a fist fighter. Note the bandaged hand on the kneeling man. This is one who won't back down in the face of adversity. You confront the malaise. You stand your ground and you fight off intruders and interferences. The 9 of Scepters is about discovering what you're made of and learning just how strong you are. But that knowledge is attained only after weathering malaise. Hecate appears as a guide to help you navigate this difficult crossroads you find yourself at. In boxing, fighting endurance is crucial, and any training program would include drills for bolstering stamina and learning to resist fatigue. The 9 of Scepters is the spirit of the pugilist because this is the spirit of endurance, stamina, and resistance. When the 9 of Scepters appears in divination, the virtue to embody is endurance. Cultivate the ability to withstand much toil without giving in to fatigue. The pugilist is a spirit that detects and reveals to you an affectation in the mental state. It indicates a condition of weakness, feeling feeble, a sense of profound discontent, and feeling both unfocused and hyper-defensive, which now needs to be addressed. The spirit resident in this card is the personification of malaise, which can conjure a feeling of debility or weakening health. This is also the spirit of despair, pessimism, cynicism, and even acedia. It can cause apathy toward one's otherwise dynamic circumstances. Yet recall that the realm of nines is the realm of the healer. The pugilist is thus the spirit of a great strength, powerful and potent, which can be used to defend against debility, weakening, despair, and oncoming illness. Given its primordial influences, the pugilist is also a powerful spirit of defensive magic. The powers ascribed to this card will enable you to set firm boundaries as they are needed in your life. Hecate comes to help you with protection magic. Card number 2. What is in my highest interest to make this week's priority? And we have 5 of Swords, the Hector. The main plot is the bull with the 5 swords and the raven warning of what might come to pass if the Hector does not change course. Beyond the clouds is the vision you need to see right now. This is the story of the warrior Hector, who so far has an unbroken record of victories over his opponents, who fights for the protection and defense of his country versus Achilles, a demigod rendered undefeatable when his mother, a sea goddess, dipped the infant in the river Styx, but for his heel and anointed him with ambrosia. Achilles is disinterested in war. He fights this battle out of personal revenge for the loss of his beloved Patroclus, who Hector had killed. When the Hector appears in a reading, one's bitterness, pessimistic attitude towards society or human relationships, and distrust of others comes from having been burned badly in the past. Either seize the upper hand or someone else will unscrupulously seize the upper hand over you, or at least that is the attitude through which you're operating. And yet may the seeker pay heed at the cost. When you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That is the fate of every Hector. My favorite insight from the 5 of Swords is this: hurt people hurt, but spite and vengeance comes to the same inevitable end, defeat. This is the spirit of indomitable strength at any cost. Per mythos, after Achilles objected to fight in the war, Patroclus went in his place, disguising himself in Achilles' armor. Patroclus charges at Hector. Hector defeats Patroclus, kills him, strips him of Achilles' armor, and puts it on himself. And now we see the gods punishing Hector's insolence. Achilles, with the aid of Athena, will bring about the downfall of Hector. When the Hector comes to you, the message is a mirror reflection of what will happen if you embody the Hector. The spirit is here to remind you that you do not need to prove the full force of your strength to others. Do not let your pride get the better of you. Your motivations for taking up arms and fighting out this conflict are valid, but the end result will be costly. The 5 of Swords portends a Pyrrhic victory. No matter which side you come out on in the short term, the long term is defeat, the Thoth keyword for this card. The 5 of Swords is expressing a dog-eat-dog world. When we choose to uphold such a world, the predicted outcome for our kind is certain: defeat. What you initially believe to be your victory will show itself to be a deprivation. You gain, but you also lose. You overcome and you prevail in one hurdle, only to be frustrated and thwarted by another. You vanquish one clear and present opposition only to be bested by an opponent you hadn't anticipated. An unfair advantage is commonly implied in the 5 of Swords, and while the foreground scene would suggest that the swordsman has a momentary unfair advantage of strength and skill, note how he is left-handed, and so in fact, from his start, was in a position of disadvantage, which he overcame. This is also the bully card. The 5 of Swords may show up in a reading to call your attention to bullying that's going on. This can warn of one who is abusing personal strength or their own social standing to exploit and hurt another. Expanding on traditional interpretations for the 5 of Swords, I want to give emphasis to the Venus in Aquarius essence of this key. The shifting, unstable nature of the 5s means that the keyword here, defeat, is not set in stone. It is a mutable outcome. There are still opportunities and measures that can be taken to avoid defeat. And that is why Aphrodite appears in this key. The Five of Swords can be an omen of political favor or advantage, integrating the Roman attributions for the goddess Venus. The Aquarian domain that Venus occupies only amplifies the victory and politics aspect of Venus. Furthermore, the Aquarian energy facilitates progress, radical change, and empowered eccentricity. Even the classical RWS imagery for the Five of Swords suggests an element of eccentricity. Card number 3. What do I need to be mindful of and prepare for this week? And we have Key 12, the Outlaw. As the Key of Grace, Key 12 designates a figurative baptism, a spiritual purification by the element water. Psalm 102, KJV 103, expresses divine mercy. There are a total of 22 verses in this psalm, likened to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and the 22 keys of the major arcana. Key 12 is the expression of the dying god. In fortune-telling, Key 13, the death card in tarot, is commonly associated with death and dying, whether as a metaphor for a transformative moment, one phase ending and a new one beginning, or interpreted more literally. However, in esoteric tarot, Key 12 is the first point where death or departure transpires. In the lore of the dying god, Key 12 is the death and Key 13 is the resurrection. Thus, here in the Outlaw, we have the prophecy of a resurrection. Key 12 can also appear to diagnose a state of personal limbo. It's been a while since you have advanced meaningful in a productive direction. Right now is the time to reinvent yourself and change course. Sacrifice one thing you've been holding onto so that you might be free to grow into something different. The Tarot Hanged Man card depicts an illusion of power dynamics. The hanging figure appears powerless. The theme of the gallows comes up in the Marseille's interpretative approach. There may have been a public humiliation at your expense because you did not play by the rules. Yet I call it an illusion of power dynamics because the hidden or occulted meaning of the card is the opposite of what it appears. In the classic Converse version of the Tarot de Marseille's and in the Soprafino, the hanging man's hands are concealed behind his back, as it is in Key 12 from the Rider-Waite-Smith and Paul Foster cases Boda Tarot. I interpret the concealed hands as a gesture of concealed power and control over the situation at hand. While the hands are visible in the Hanged Man from the Thoth Tarot, there's a more overt reference to Jesus Christ in that version. The hidden coiled snake beneath the inverted head of the hanging man is how the message of concealed power is being conveyed here. The Outlaw is showing you a state of psychic mindfulness. In that mindfulness, do not overlook the pelican in the distant background, gliding across waters. This is the expression of a probationary cycle. The pillars pictured here seem to be coming from the same structure as the pillars pictured in Key 5, the Hierophant. While the Hierophant designates that which is of tradition and that which is orthodox, the Outlaw is the other side of the same coin, that which is subversive and that which is unorthodox. To walk that path, the one that is subversive and unorthodox, requires sacrifice and redemption. You do not walk such a path unscathed. You will become the scapegoat. Others will try to bind you. An example will be made of you. But you knew all this already, and you willingly accepted to offer yourself as the sacrifice, all for a greater good. Writes Comte de Saint-Germain. This arcane run 12 means that one must sacrifice oneself for others without awaiting anything but in gratitude as a reward. Forgiveness must remain our most precious gift, as it causes us to resemble more closely our divine prototype. I feel like this week the busyness and stress of the holidays are finally catching up with you. Hecate is here to protect you and help you heal your body, mind, and soul. Some of you will be very irritable and feel like lashing out at others around you. Please be mindful and try to keep your temper in check. Take some time to relax and recharge. You have been going and going like the Energizer Bunny. It is time to take a step back and slow your roll. It may be good to reward yourself with a spa day or just some me time. Hell, turn off the computer and phone and just read a book or take a nap. Take time to decompress by whatever means appeals to you most. I hope that this reading has helped you and will help lead you and guide you throughout the week. If you do feel that it has helped you and that it will help someone else, please feel free to share this video. Sharing is caring. And if you would like a more in-depth and personal reading, you can go to my website at www.conjureknits.com and click on the link at the top of the page that says Book a Reading. I hope you all have a very beautiful and amazing week. Love you bunches. Shalom.